Demigods and great sages cannot understand Krishna. They can understand neither his name nor his personality. So what is the position of the so-called scholars of this tiny planet? No one can understand why this supreme God comes to earth as an ordinary human being and executes such wonderful, uncommon activities. One should know then that scholarship is not the qualification necessary to understand Krishna. Even the demigods and the great sages have tried to understand Krishna by their mental speculation, and they have failed to do so. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also it is clearly said that even the great demigods are not able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They can speculate to the limits of their imperfect senses and can reach the opposite conclusion of impersonalism, of something not manifested by the three qualities of material nature, or they can imagine something by mental speculation, but it is not possible to understand Krishna by such foolish speculation. Here the Lord indirectly says that if anyone wants to know the absolute truth, here I am as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I am the Supreme. One should know this. Although one cannot understand the inconceivable Lord who is personally present, he nonetheless exists. We can actually understand Krishna, who is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, simply by studying his words in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The conception of God as some ruling power, or as the impersonal Brahman, can be reached by persons who are in the inferior energy of the Lord. But the personality of Godhead cannot be conceived unless one is in the transcendental position. Because most men cannot understand Krishna in his actual situation. Out of his causeless mercy, he descends to show favor to such speculators. Yet, despite the Supreme Lord's uncommon activities, these speculators, due to contamination in the material energy, still think that the impersonal Brahman is the Supreme. Only the devotees who are fully surrendered unto the Supreme Lord can understand, by the grace of the Supreme Personality, that he is Krishna. The devotees of the Lord do not bother about the impersonal Brahman conception of God. Their faith and devotion bring them to surrender immediately unto the Supreme Lord, and out of the causeless mercy of Krishna they can understand Krishna. No one else can understand him, so even great sages agree. What is Atma? What is the Supreme? It is he whom we have to worship. And now, text 3, and then we'll begin our lecture. Text 3 says, Yo mama jamanadim cha veti lokam maheshwara. So, asamudo samartyesu sarvapapai pramuchyate. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the Supreme Lord of all the worlds, he only, undiluted among men, is freed from all sins. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As stated in the 7th chapter, 7.3, Manusyanam sahasresu kaschit jatati siddhaye. Those who are trying to elevate themselves to the platform of spiritual realization are not ordinary men. They are superior to millions and millions of ordinary men who have no knowledge of spiritual realization. But out of those actually trying to understand their spiritual situation, one who can come to the understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the proprietor of everything, the unborn, is the most successful spiritually realized person. In that stage alone, when one has fully understood Krishna's supreme position, can one be free completely from all sinful reactions. Here the Lord is described by the word aja, meaning unborn. But he is distinct from the living entities who are described in the 2nd chapter as aja. The Lord is different from the living entities who are taking birth and dying due to material attachment. The conditioned souls are changing their bodies, but his body is not changeable. Even when he comes to this material world, he comes as the same unborn. Therefore, in the 4th chapter, it is said that the Lord, by his internal potency, is not under the inferior material energy, but is always in the superior energy. In this verse, the words Veti Loka Maheshwaram indicate that one should know that Lord Krishna is the supreme proprietor of the planetary systems of the universe. He was existing before the creation, and he is different from his creation. All the demigods were created within this material world, but as far as Krishna is concerned, it is said that he is not created. Therefore, Krishna is different even from the great demigods like Brahma and Shiva. And because he is the creator of Brahma, Shiva, and all other demigods, he is the supreme person of all planets. So Krishna is therefore different from everything that is created, and anyone who knows him as such immediately becomes liberated from all sinful reactions. One must be liberated from all sinful activities to be in the knowledge of the Supreme Lord. Only by devotional service can he be known, and not by any other means, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. One should not try to understand Krishna as a human being. As stated previously, only a foolish person thinks him to be a human being. This is again expressed here in a different way. A man who is not foolish, who is intelligent enough to understand the constitutional position of the Godhead, is always free from all sinful reactions. If Krishna is known as the son of Devaki, then how can he be unborn? That is also explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. When he appeared before Devaki and Vasudeva, he was not born as an ordinary child. He appeared in his original form, and then he transformed himself into an ordinary child. Anything done under the direction of Krishna is transcendental. It cannot be contaminated by material reactions, which may be auspicious or inauspicious. The conception that there are things auspicious and inauspicious in the material world is more or less mental concoction, because there is nothing auspicious in the material world. Everything is inauspicious because the very material nature is inauspicious. We simply imagine it to be auspicious. Real auspiciousness depends on activities in Krishna consciousness and full devotion and service. Therefore, if we at all want our activities to be auspicious, then we should work under the directions of the Supreme Lord. Such directions are given in authoritative scriptures such as Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, or from a bona fide spiritual master. Because the spiritual master is the representative of the Supreme Lord, his direction is directly the direction of the Supreme Lord. The spiritual master's saintly persons and scriptures direct in the same way. There is no contradiction in these three sources. All actions done under such direction are free from the reactions of pious or impious activities of this material world. The transcendental attitude of the devotee in the performance of activities is actually that of renunciation, and this is called sannyasa. As stated in the first verse of the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, one who acts as a matter of duty because he has been ordered to do so by the Supreme Lord, and who does not seek shelter in the fruits of his activities, anashrita karma phalam, is a true renouncer. Anyone acting under the direction of the Supreme Lord is actually a sannyasi and a yogi, and not the man who has simply taken the dress of the sannyasi or the pseudo-yogi. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavani Ki Jai. So on December 30th, 1966, Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture on these three verses of 10th chapter, 1, 2, 3. I have one more for somebody if they want it. Huh? If they want it. Okay, so this is December 30, 1966. It's an unedited audio tape of Srila Prabhupada speaking on these three verses. So the first verse, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhuyo Eva Mahabaho Shrinu Me Paramam Vachaha Yatteham Priyamanaya Vaksyami Hitakam Yaya. Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter, verse number 1. The Supreme Lord said, My dear friend, mighty armed Arjuna, listen again to my supreme word, which I shall impart to you for your benefit, and which will give you great joy. Well, this is a nice verse because it reaffirms something that Krishna said previously in the 9th chapter, in the previous chapter, when he says, because you are my dear friend, for your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained. But in the alternative translation that he gives in this lecture, he says, my dear friend, my dear armed Arjuna, listen again to my supreme word, which I shall impart to you for your benefit, and which will give you great joy. So, when it says, for your benefit, it's hitakamyaya, for your benefit. Now, where is the concept of extreme joy, or great joy? Well, when it says priyamanaya, it means I'm thinking of you, dear to me. And when Krishna thinks dearly of his devotee, that gives the devotee great joy. Okay, so this verse we have been discussing last meeting. Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is advising Arjuna that I am speaking to you again further confidential part of knowledge. And why am I speaking to you? Because you are my dear friend. So this concept of being God's dear friend, if God was your dear friend and he said so, that would make you happy. You would be joyful. You would be very pleased. And that's how he has gotten this meaning. Not only it's for his benefit, but it will give you great joy. Now, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, we have discussed this point, that the Bhagavad Gita was specifically instructed to Arjuna for his only one qualification, that he was a devotee. So, in the 4th chapter, it says, Bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasam hiyatad uttamam. Actually, that full verse is very interesting. Let's just take a look at that. 4th chapter, 3rd verse, where Krishna tells Arjuna, Saivayam maya te dya yogam prokta puratana bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hiyatad uttamam. This very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, he's speaking to Arjuna, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So when he says, Bhaktosi me sakha cheti, that means, sakha means friend, and bhakto means devotee. Rahasyam hiyatad uttamam. Therefore, you can understand this very, let's say, secret of all secrets. Rahasyam means something that's very confidential and a mystery. So why did Krishna select Arjuna? In another verse in the beginning of 9th chapter, actually, he says, Idam tu te guyatamam pradvaksyami anasuyave. So he says, now I'm going to explain to you this most confidential of all knowledges, Jnanam vijnanam sahitam yajgatva moksasi subhat. My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me. Well, this is the 3rd qualification. First, he's bhakta. Second, he's sakha. And now he's anasuya. He's not envious of the Lord. These are the prerequisite qualifications of a devotee so that the Lord will directly speak to him and reveal the import of confidential knowledge about himself. Jnanam vijnanam sahitam yajgatva moksasi subhat. And by learning this knowledge, one attains confidential knowledge, jnanam, vijnana, realization of that knowledge, and by that knowledge and realization, by acquiring this, one attains moksha subhat, freedom from all the miseries of material existence. So here we have very special understanding of the value of hearing Bhagavad Gita patiently on a daily basis and discussing it. And in this way, one will be free of all the miseries of material life. Everyone is suffering from miseries. Everyone is in anxiety, what's going to happen next. All of that can be relieved permanently by this regular hearing of Krishna's words. And Krishna says, that very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend. Therefore you can understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So let me see how he translated that. In that very ancient science of relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Yeah, it's the same. So the Lord said that the mystery of Bhagavad Gita is very confidential. So without becoming a pure devotee or unalloyed devotee of mine, Krishna says, it is very difficult to understand. Now, why does he keep this knowledge confidential? Well, obviously, it can't be that confidential because we're hearing it right now, right? But why does he say it's confidential? Because if one becomes a pure devotee, then Krishna will favor him or her. And Krishna also becomes vulnerable to such a devotee. Vulnerable in what sense? That he will do everything to help that devotee advance spiritually. And he becomes attracted by that devotee. So, therefore, it's not an ordinary thing to develop, to become a pure devotee, because Krishna reveals the confidential knowledge about himself. What is the confidential knowledge about himself? He says, Samaham sarvabhutesu name dveso stina priya ye bhajanti tamam bhaktya maite tesu chapyaham. 9th chapter, 29th verse, Bhagavad Gita, he says, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever rends service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So he's establishing here the special status of pure devotee of his, that he considers such devotee a friend. It says, is in me, meaning one becomes very dear to him, and he becomes a friend of the devotee. Now, if God is your friend, you have nothing to worry about in this life. But just like in this world, to really earn the friendship of another person, you have to do something significant so that they trust you. So that is exactly the point here. Krishna can only trust a pure devotee who has no material desires other than to please the Lord. So here we see again where Krishna says that the qualification for him to speak this confidential knowledge to an individual is Sevigam Mayatedya Yogam Prokta Puratana Bhakto Sime Sakacheti Rahasyam Hietad Uttamam. One must be Bhakta and Saka and Anasuya, his devotee, his friend, and non-envious. And then Krishna speaks this transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the devotee. And basically, this transcendental knowledge reveals to the devotee how indebted Krishna when someone purely serves him with love and devotion. Okay, so the mystery of Bhagavad Gita is very confidential, Krishna says. So without becoming a pure devotee, an unalloyed devotee of mine, it is very difficult to understand. Actually, it is so. In the market, you'll have so many commentaries of Bhagavad Gita. In other words, there's so many Bhagavad Gitas in the bookstores. You go to Barnes & Noble, you go on Amazon, you go here, there, half-price bookstore, half-price books. You'll find many translations of the Bhagavad Gita. In India, we have counted, there are about 645 different commentaries of Bhagavad Gita. One, Dr. Arieli of Bombay, he has interpreted Bhagavad Gita as the talks between the patient and the medical practitioner. Yes, he has imposed on Krishna that he is a physician and Arjuna as his patient. And in his commentary, he has tried to, interpose all the meanings of anatomy, physiology, everything in his own imagination. Mm-hmm. So this is what's happening. People are piggybacking on the Bhagavad Gita to establish their own credentials. And credentials for what? For their speculation. In other words, they make a travesty of Bhagavad Gita by misinterpreting it and usurping its authorship as if they know what it's all about. But all they've done is to superimpose on the Bhagavad Gita their own speculative theories. And they're very clever. Like here he writes his own commentary to the Bhagavad Gita and inserts into it meanings of anatomy, physiology, and everything of his own imagination. That's why, although there's 645 translations of Bhagavad Gita with commentaries by speculators, no one became a devotee reading those speculations. It's only when Prabhupada published his translation of Bhagavad Gita as it is, did thousands, hundreds of thousands, and now millions of people have taken up devotional service seriously, because he explained it as it is, yatarup, without his personal interpretation. So, similarly, at the present moment, there are so many commentaries, and the people have taken that anybody can interpret in his own way. This is the modern view. Now, in other words, this is the main fault in modern scholarship. Modern scholarship began with Aristotle, when he said, man is the measure. That is a huge mistake. People, we all have 4 fundamental defects. We make mistakes, we're easily illusioned, our senses are imperfect and limited, and we have a cheating propensity. So how can man be the measure when man has these 4 fundamental defects? Therefore, when he said that 2,500 years ago, and he departed, or he violated the teachings of Plato, who was his guru, and his grand guru was Socrates. And he began to develop a system of logic, rejecting the existence of any perfect spiritual world, and just relying basically on human intelligence, logic, reasoning, etc. Well, he's the father of modern, let's say, philosophy. But actually it's foolosophy. It's not philosophy, it's foolosophy. Because when you attempt to understand the spiritual knowledge by speculation, you end up being a fool. So here, this interpreting in one's own way, in other words, there are no absolutes, everything is relative, and all opinions are valid. This is the modern concept. This is the modern view. So everyone is perfect, and he can interpret any scripture in his own way. This of course, is not true. But so far we are concerned, we are not agreeable to that point of view. We agree to read Bhagavad Gita in terms of the instruction as it is given in the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita says that this knowledge has to be taken by the parampara system, or the disciplic succession. It is not that anyone can interpret. The viewpoint, no bona fide student of Bhagavad Gita, this viewpoint, no bona fide student of Bhagavad Gita will accept. Now, what point is he making? That in order to be a bona fide speaker or commentator on Bhagavad Gita, you have to be in a bona fide disciplic succession. Now, there are only 4 bona fide disciplic successions. That is the Sri Vaishnava disciplic succession, or parampara, the Rudra parampara, the Kumar, 4 Kumaras parampara, or the Brahma and Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava parampara. Now, we're in the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Vaishnava parampara. There are other lineages, none of them are bona fide. Why? Because they don't start with Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All the greatest authorities, spiritual authorities, have all accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the Alvars. Lord Brahma himself, Lord Shiva himself, Sankaracharya also accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although he taught Mayavad philosophy, but still he explained Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam Mudamate. Just give up their intellectual word jugglery and just surrender to Govinda. Okay, so here we see that the greatest spiritual authorities all accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All the Mahajans, Bhisma Pitamaha, Narada, Vyasadeva, Devala, Asita, and so forth, Prithu Maharaj, and Yamaraj himself, and Prahlad Maharaj, and all of them have accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in order to be a bona fide speaker and commentator on Bhagavad Gita, one must be in a bona fide spiritual lineage, 1. Number 2, one must not speculate. Now, what does that mean? A person speculates when they don't know the answer to a question. And they begin with, if, maybe, perhaps, let us assume, just for argument's sake, all those phrases are red flags that someone is going to give a personal opinion that is definitely going to be flawed. Are all personal opinions flawed? Yes, when you're talking about spiritual subjects. If you're talking about baseball or football or basketball, they can get some facts right. But when you're talking about the spiritual world and God, their speculations fall very, very short of the truth. So this Bhagavad Gita is being taught by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to Arjuna. He says again the same thing. He is repeating the Yatte ham priyamanaya vakshyami hita kamyaya. Because you are my dear friend, I desire that you become prosperous, you become happy. Therefore I am speaking to you. Do you think that Krishna is not interested with others to make them happy and prosperous? No. He's equally disposed. He wants everyone to be happy and peaceful and prosperous. But they do not want it. That is the difficulty. Now, why does he say they do not want it? Everyone's going to all these inspirational speakers, New Age gurus, so-called man gods, and they all want to be happy, they want to be peaceful, they want to be prosperous. Many gurus in India will say, you give me 1, you'll get back 10. The Bank of India can't even give that. You can't even get that on the stock market, right? And people are stupid enough to believe it, right? But that is not what we mean by prosperous. Prosperous means you're honest, you work, and you're not lazy, and your work is always meaningful and produces results, and you're compassionate, you're self-controlled, you're peaceful, you're tolerant, and of course you're truthful, and therefore you live at home without any debts. That's called prosperity. Whether you learn $30,000 a year or $30 million a year, you're living at home without any debts. And therefore, you're not in anxiety, and you're regularly worshiping the Lord, hearing the message of Lord Krishna like we are now, Bhagavad Gita, and so forth. So that is prosperity. Prosperity means that you're satisfied with what God gives you. Now that's in stark, let's say, contrast to you're never satisfied no matter how much you have. So which one is a more viable and healthy, let's say, worldview? Being satisfied with whatever God gives you, or never being satisfied no matter how much you have? So never being satisfied no matter how much you have is sickness. It's a perverted mentality. It's a recipe for failure in life. You might be accumulating a lot of things. There was once a man, he was working so hard, almost day and night, to make a lot of money. And one day he bought, someone gifted him a new pair of shoes. So, but he was working so hard, he never went anywhere where he needed to wear a new pair of shoes. So what did he do? At night before he'd go to sleep, he put the shoes on so he could wear them while he was sleeping. You see? That's like the man, an H-1B worker who comes to the United States for the first time, he gets a job in Amazon, and sleeps under the computer, right, at work, so that he can get up right away and start working again. So this type of, frenzy to make money and be a high achiever, there's nothing wrong with being a high achiever, but usually it's detrimental for spiritual life. It's to the detriment of spiritual life, because one thinks, oh, this is too much, this is too important. My stocks will not mature for 10 years, so therefore I got to work really hard and wait 10 years working like this, like a donkey, so that my stocks will mature. Well, that's a new type of slavery. Before, one was an indentured slave, or one was just a slave, or a serf, like in Europe, and had to work hard all their life. Nowadays, you get stock options, but they don't mature for 10 years. A lot of things can happen in 10 years. I had a friend of mine, he was working in Amazon and Microsoft, and he had stock options, and he was working there for considerable time, and then something happened and they fired him. He lost everything. He didn't get anything. He just got his salary, that's it. He didn't get any of the stock options because he wasn't there long enough for them to mature. So you see, it's a trick. And just like a credit card is also a trick. The United States in the 1930s began to do what's called deficit spending. That means you're spending money you don't have. But as long as you can pay the interest, people keep loaning you money, right? So, and therefore the United States will earn $1 and spend $10. Now, if you earn $1 and spend $10, you would go bankrupt, right? But as long as you're able to pay the interest on your debt, you don't go bankrupt. And they keep lending you more money. Every 3 weeks, you'll get a new credit card in the mail. They'll find out your credit record. You keep paying the interest. So they'll want you to go deeper into debt, right? So that's the type of slavery. You have to work so hard. You're in anxiety. If I don't pay the interest, I'll go bankrupt. I'll lose my credit. So all these things are very, very, let's say, high-end strategies to convince people to work day and night and be in anxiety. The other thing they do also, this was started by a very famous CEO who died now, but he was CEO of General Electric. Every year they have to fire 10% of the workforce so that the other 90% are scared and work their butts off. This is a strategy in every major company now in the United States. Every year they will fire 10% of their workforce, right? And then you have your 3-month evaluation or 6-month evaluation or 12-month evaluation. Everyone's always in anxiety about it. So that's the whole point, anxiety. Material life is full of anxiety. Everyone's worried. Why? What is the cause of anxiety? It's being attached to something that's temporary. It's like it could be the body, it could be your 401k, it could be stock investment, it could be your car, it can be whatever. Well, as long as you're attached to something that is not permanent, you'll be in anxiety. That's why it's an easy sell for insurance companies when they sell you life insurance, because they know one thing that's 100% true, and everyone accepts. Everyone's going to die. Knowing one thing to be absolutely true, you can make a lot of money. So the insurance companies, knowing that everyone is going to die, especially people who are married and CEOs and business people, nowadays, like if you get a loan from a bank, the first thing they say is, do you have a will? Why? Because if you have a will, then they have a chance of getting the money back in case you go bankrupt or if you die, right? So usually one prerequisite for getting a large loan is you have to have a will. Now, we're not talking about small loans like on a house. We're talking about, there are companies and CEOs that get loans like, $5 million, $50 million, $100 million. Those people have to have a will. And because then they have guaranteed that somehow or other they'll get their money back. Okay, so therefore Prabhupada continues. He says, so this Bhagavad Gita is being taught by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to Arjuna. He says again the same thing. He's repeating that Yat te ham priyamanaya vakshyami hitakamyaya. Because you are my dear friend, I desire that you become prosperous, you become happy. Therefore I am speaking to you. Do you think that Krishna is not interested with others to make them happy and prosperous? No. He's equally disposed. That's the verse I read, 9th chapter, 28th verse. No, not 28, 9th chapter, 29th verse, where Krishna says that he is partial, he's not partial to anyone, but yet he's partial to his devotee. He is equally disposed. He wants everyone to be happy and peaceful and prosperous, but they do not want it. That is the difficulty. Now, they do not want it. Why did he say that? Okay, let's keep reading and we'll see. Just like the sunshine is open to everyone. Sunshine is not for any particular nation or particular country or particular person or community. It is open for everyone. But if someone wants to remain in darkness, closing his doors, do not come out, then what poor sunshine can do for him? Similarly, this Bhagavad Gita, the instruction of Bhagavad Gita, is open to everyone. Everyone. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Mam hi partavipasritya tepi syu papayunaha striya vaisas tata yepi syu papayunaha yaha striya vaisas tata sudras tepi syu tepiyanti param gatim. So 9th chapter, 32nd verse. O son of Prita, those who take shelter of me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, or merchants, as well as Sudras, workers, can approach the supreme destination. Now note that merchants and Sudras, they are men. And women, it doesn't mean all women, just like it doesn't mean all men. It means people who have low-class habits in life. Eating meat, gambling, intoxication, illicit sex, things like that. Anyone, never mind what he is. So this verse says anybody, no matter whether they're high class or low class, whether they're rich or poor, whether they're educated or ignorant, if they take shelter in me, Krishna says, though they be of lower birth, they can approach the supreme destination. So this is a verse that is really based on equity, on equal opportunity for all, regardless of their social or spiritual position. Anyone, never mind what he or she is. There are different kinds of species of life. Some of them are considered as lower, some of them are considered higher. That is our material conception. And actually, according to different qualities, according to different modes of nature, there are different situations, and there are lower grade, higher grade understanding also. That is a fact. But Krishna says, anyone, never mind what he is, papayonaha. Papayonaha means those who are in the lower birth. They're committing sins all the time. So, Bhagavad Gita is transcendental subject matter. It does not depend on the qualification of the student. Anyone can understand Bhagavad Gita, provided he agrees to understand according to the principles. That's all. The principle is, evam parampara praptam imam rajarsayo vidu. One must contact a person that's in a bona fide disciplic succession. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. So, one receives this supreme science through the chain of disciplic succession. That's the point. But whenever that chain is broken, Krishna appears to reestablish it, as he did 5,000 years ago. Now, we said we were going to look at something, that is, Prabhupada said that Krishna is equally disposed toward everyone. He wants everyone to be happy and peaceful and prosperous, but they do not want it. That is the difficulty. Now, why does he say, who in their right mind would not want to be happy, prosperous, and peaceful? There are people like that. There are envious people. There are very low-class people. There are very sinful people. They engage in all kinds of horrible things that are self-destructive to themselves and destructive to others. In fact, just to show you how powerful some preachers are, like, for example, let's take Hitler. He was a preacher. He was preaching the philosophy of Nazism. But by his preaching, he convinced the whole country, a whole people, to become fanaticized and become militaristic and to conquer other countries and to kill people, murder people, right? Let's take radical Islam. The preachers are so powerful, they can take a young kid and convince him to strap a bomb on himself and blow up people indiscriminately And they promised him he's going to heaven. Well, the news is he's not going to heaven, he's going to hell. So, but they're able to convince people and program them to believe that they're going to be rewarded for killing people brutally, and it's justified in the eyes of God. Of course, their God is the demon, is the devil. It's not Krishna. So here we have interesting things where people can get worked up through false ideas and philosophies to be self-destructive and to also cause harm to others. That's why he says, but they do not want it. God wants everyone to be happy, peaceful, and prosperous. God does not want people to strap bombs on their bodies and blow people up. He doesn't want people to embrace communism or Nazism or any type of fanaticism and justify their killing and maiming and conquering others and enslaving them and so forth, putting them in gas chambers or hanging them or whatever. It's all nonsense. However, there are people like that, and they don't want to really be happy, prosperous, and peaceful. They want to cause harm, not only to themselves, but to others. So they don't accept, although here is the insider information. You can easily become happy, prosperous, and peaceful, and also develop the qualifications that go back to Godhead if you simply listen to what Krishna says. It's not complicated, and you don't have to have any special qualification. You just have to be a pure-hearted, honest person. Right. So this is stated in the 4th chapter, that this Bhagavad Gita is coming by disciplic succession from the sun god. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavam aham avyayam. Why does it say that? Because Krishna first spoke Bhagavad Gita to Vivaswan or Surya Narayana. And he says, I first of all instructed this yoga system of Bhagavad Gita to the sun god, the sun planet, the Vivaswan. The present ruler of the sun planet is known as Vivaswan. So Vivaswan, and his son was Manu, and Manu was the father of mankind, and his son was King Ikshvaku. King Ikshvaku was the king of this earthly planet. He was the first king of the earthly planet, and from him this parampara system of disciplic succession is coming down. But over time it is broken down. The Lord said to Arjuna, Sakalinaha yogo nasta parantapa. In course of time, that disciplic succession has now broken. Therefore, I make again you as my disciple. So, dharmam tu shakshat bhagavat pranitam means that only God can enunciate the principles of religion. And therefore he does, dharmam tu shakshat. But if there is a break in the disciplic succession or the passation of that spiritual knowledge that he first imparted and established the parampara, then he is responsible to appear and reestablish the spiritual links. So he's making Arjuna his disciple so that Arjuna can carry on the correct understanding of the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita in modern times. Therefore, if we read Bhagavad Gita today and come to the same conclusion as Arjuna, what is this conclusion? 10th chapter, verses 8 to 11. Param Brahma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavam, Purusham Sasvatam Divyam. I'm sorry, it's verses 12 and 13. Purusham Sasvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhu Ahustram Rishaya Sarvera Deva Sir Naradastata Asito Devalo Vyasa Swayameva. And so it says that 10th chapter, verses 12 and 13. Let me just read that. Krishna says, first Arjuna says, Param Brahma, Krishna, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Param Dhamma, the supreme destination. And Pavitram Yadam, Pavitram Paramam Bhavam, you are the purest and Paramam Bhavam, the absolute truth. Purusham Sasvatam Divyam, you are the eternal, transcendental, original person. Adi Devam Ajan Vibhum, you are the God of all gods. You were never born, and you are the greatest of all. And all this, all the great sages such as Narada, Sita, Devala, Vyasa confirm this truth about you, and now you are declaring it to me. When did he declare that? 10th chapter, 8th verse, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Matak Sarvam Pavartate. He says, I'm the source of everything material and spiritual. Those who know this surrender unto me and engage wholeheartedly in my devotional service. So this 10th chapter is a very important chapter in Bhagavad Gita. It shows the mature understanding of Arjuna. Arjuna is the quintessential student of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna reestablished the bona fide disciplic succession, dharmam to shakshat bhagavat pranitam, that had been broken by the time of Arjuna, the end of Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and therefore Krishna chose Arjuna as the disciple that would recharge, that would reinvigorate the disciplic succession in modern times. And you can tell why, because Arjuna understands who Krishna is. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the absolute truth. He is the purest of the pure. He is a person who's transcendental and eternal, and he's the original person, original Godhead, and he is never born, and he's the greatest of all. Okay, so, and Prabhupada continues here, and Krishna says, so he says, Arjuna has already accepted Krishna as a spiritual master in the 2nd chapter. In the beginning of the 2nd chapter, Krishna says, Sisyas teham sadimam tvam papanam. Now I am confused, or I'm sorry, Arjuna says, Sisyas teham sadimam tvam. That's a mistake. And he says, now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you, Krishna, to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So this is the position of a bona fide disciple. Bona fide disciple wants to put an end to informal discussion, wants to formalize his or her relationship with the bona fide spiritual master so that he can ask or she can ask serious questions and get the proper answers. If you go to a doctor and he does a lot of tests, and after like 6 weeks of testing and sending it to laboratories and getting back the results, he says, I'm not sure what it is. It may be this or it may be that. Well, wait a minute. That's not a doctor then. You could go to the corner grocery store and ask the checkout lady, what her opinion is. It would be just worth the same as that doctor's opinion. It may be this, it may be that. She could also say that. And she doesn't have to keep you waiting 6 weeks to say it. So you don't go to people like doctors or lawyers or bankers or whatever for their opinion. You go to find out what is fact, right? And here, you don't go to a speculator and accept them as spiritual master, because they'll give you a lot of speculation. It may be like this, it may be like that. A bona fide guru will give you bona fide facts. So, but in order to approach the guru, one approaches with 3 attitudes: pranipat, paripastena, and sevaya, with submissiveness, asking significant questions, and offering service. Then that creates the proper atmosphere for the exchange of questions and answers. So long we are talking as friends, Arjuna said, but now I surrender myself as my spiritual master. I surrender myself to you as my spiritual master, Krishna. So therefore, Krishna was speaking to Arjuna on the platform of spiritual master. So we should note it that the spiritual or perfect spiritual master is Krishna. And anyone who is following the principles, as Krishna says, he's also representative of Krishna. And the teacher is Krishna, and the Arjuna is the student. Similarly, as the spiritual master is the representative of Krishna, similarly a student must be as the representative of Arjuna. Then Bhagavad Gita discussion will be nice. So here Prabhupada is explaining the proper method of accepting Guru and the proper method of questioning the Guru from a position of submissiveness and service. Nowadays, do kids accept teachers as gurus? Well, they accept the teacher, but they don't, and they should be submissive, and they should ask serious questions, and they should offer service. But the whole thing is broken down. It's not that clear anymore. And kids go to school, sometimes they put their feet up on a table, or they're chewing gum, or they're vapping underneath the desk, or they're talking and building paper airplanes and throwing it at each other, and all kinds of nonsense goes on in classes nowadays. And that respect for the teacher is not there. But then again, the teachers may not be respectable. If they're eating meat, smoking marijuana on their breaks or whatever, then what's respectable about them? And if they're teaching nonsense, like, there are no absolutes, everything is relative, and there's no God, but man has to depend on his own intelligence and rationality and science to understand the truth. Well, that's all a bunch of nonsense. There's no validity to that type of concept. And therefore, then the teacher is not respectable. They're just giving opinions that are not facts, and feeding the kids false ideas. Okay, so spiritual master is someone who repeats Krishna's words exactly correctly. Jai Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai The perfect spiritual master is Krishna, and anyone who is following the principles as Krishna has instructed, he's also representative of Krishna. So that's the point. So here we're getting several criterions by which you can judge if someone is a bona fide spiritual master or not. Number one is they have to be in a bona fide disciplic succession. Number two, they have to accept Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead. Number three, they have to repeat correctly Krishna's words without interpreting or speculating, without extrapolating, without adding or subtracting. So what is that? Meaning, what is Arjuna's position? We will find in this chapter, which we are now just beginning. He said, Sarvam itadritam manye yanman madasikeshava. 10th chapter, 14th verse. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Neither the gods nor demons, O Lord, know thy personality. So this is a real disciple of Krishna. Arjuna, not right away. We're in the 10th chapter. In other words, he already heard 9 chapters, and then he heard the first 11 verses of the 10th chapter. But he comes to the conclusion after this hearing, and after asking significant questions that cleared away all his doubts, he comes to the conclusion that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavam. Because this is his mature understanding. So, therefore he says, Sarvam itadritam manye yanvan madhva. Yan man, one second, let me get the exact words. Yan mam vadasi keshava nahite mahite bhagavan vyaktim vidur devan danava. O Krishna, I totally accept this truth, all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. Well, This is his mature understanding. And he confirms this again in the last verses of Bhagavad Gita, where he says, Nasta mahasmritir latva tat prashadat mayuchyata stitos mi gata sandeya karishya vachanam tava. Now, Krishna, he says, all my moha, my illusion is done, and I can remember who I am. I'm your eternal servant. I'm your part and parcel. I'm submissive, and I accept you as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, then he says, this is your special prasad for me. So usually we refer to prasad as cooked food that's been offered to Krishna and then offered to the devotee. But he says to Krishna, he says that this is your special prasad. So he says, Mayuchyata, O Krishna, O Achyuta, O infallible one, Tat Prasadat Mayuchyata. This is your special prasad, your special mercy. This is your best mercy for me. You cleared away all my doubts. You answered all my questions. You've opened the path for me to surrender to you and accept you fully as my spiritual master. And from this point on, I have no more doubts, no more arguments. Whatever you say, that's what I'm going to do. Stitos mi gata sandeya. Karishya vachanam tava. That's the ultimate statement of faith. So basically, this is the same thing that he's saying in the 10th chapter, verse number 14, where he says, Sarvamitad ritam manye yanman vadasi keshava nahite bhagavan vyaktim vidur devana danava. I totally accept this truth, all that you have told me. Okay, so he says that in the 10th chapter. He says it again in the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita. My dear Krishna, whatever you are speaking, I accept. I accept it. So that should be the process of understanding Krishna or Bhagavad Gita. Not that I don't like this, so I'll reject this portion. I like this portion, therefore I accept it. This sort of studying Bhagavad Gita is useless. It's nonsense. Sarvam itad ritam manye. Whatever you have said, I accept it. That is stated. Similarly, a teacher of Bhagavad Gita should be a representative of Krishna. Representative of Krishna means a confidential devotee, unalloyed devotee of Krishna. The same thing. He also accepted Krishna as his spiritual master. The student also should be like that. Then the study of Bhagavad Gita is perfect. Otherwise, it is useless, waste of time. This is not a book like an ordinary book. You get it and you form some opinion. I think it may mean this, or I think he was trying to say that. It's not like that. We're dealing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything he says is perfect. Every answer he gives is perfect. If we can simply repeat it, we also become devotee, and we also become guru. If we give our own interpretation, the parampara or disciplic succession is broken. And we're no longer a transparent via media or a transparent representative of Krishna. Okay. So similarly, a teacher of Bhagavad Gita should be a representative of Krishna. There's a nice verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is said, Let's see, where are we? Okay, one. Okay, so this. Okay. It is said. Okay, where do you have? What does it say? Okay. All right. I got these pages mixed up. Okay. It is said, Satam prasangam mama virya samido bhavanti hit karna rasayana kata tajosanad asvapavar gavartamani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramisyati. This is a very nice verse. 3rd canto, 25th chapter, 25th verse of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, in the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and therefore he is freed, and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begins. So, point 1, association with pure devotees. Point 2, discussion of pastimes and activities of Supreme Lord. Point 3, it's very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. So in other words, if you're hearing a bona fide speaker, you should feel, instead of discomfort and misery and suffering, you should feel satisfied and pleasing. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed, and his attraction becomes fixed. Attraction to what? Attraction to Krishna. Then real devotion and devotional service begins. If anyone wants to understand the spiritual science or the science of Krishna, then he should associate himself with the satam, those who are pure devotees. Those who are pure devotees. Satam prasangat, when discussions take place between pure devotees, then the potency of spiritual knowledge as they are depicted in the scriptures and sacred books, they become revealed. Simply armchair, I mean to say mental speculator discussing on Bhagavad Gita, that is useless, futile. Here it is stated that satam prasangam mama virya samido bhavanti hit karna rasayanaha. If it is discussed in the association of pure devotees, then the potency of that spiritual language will be revealed. It will be revealed. Okay, well, there's another verse that says this, and that verse is also in the 10th chapter, which says, Matchita matgata pranak bodhyantas parasparam katyantis chamam nityam tusyanti cha ramanti cha. 10th chapter, verse number 9 says, the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So this is very similar to this verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Vedic literature also, in the Svatara Upanishad, it is said, Yasya Devi Parabhaktir Yata Devi Tatas Guru Tashyate Katita Hi Artak Prakasante Mahatmanaha. Svatara Upanishad 6:23. Unto those great souls who have implicit, that means complete faith, in both the Lord and the spiritual master, all the imports or all the confidential meanings of Vedic knowledge are automatically revealed. It is said there that one who's got firm faith in God and similar faith in God's representative, Yasya Devi Parabhakti. Devi means God. Yasya Devi Parabhakti Yata Devi Tata Guru. Guru means spiritual master. Spiritual master means a perfect devotee of God. He's spiritual master. Taisyaite katita hi artaha. So all this, I mean to say, import or meanings of the Vedic language will be revealed to him. Will be revealed to him. We cannot understand Vedas simply by the process. And Bhagavata confirms it. Nate viduswatagatim hi vishnum. So in other words, there's no mechanical process by which we can understand Bhagavad Gita. This is a different type of knowledge. this knowledge is revealed to the degree that we surrender to the Lord. There's a direct proportion. Etamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyama. Mamavart manavartante manishya partha sarvasaha. In the 4th chapter, 11th verse, Krishna says, as my devotee surrenders unto me, I proportionately reveal myself to him. So, this is different than academic knowledge. Academic knowledge is a mechanical process. You listen to lectures, you take notes, you study books, you take a test, and if you pass the test, you progress. That's a mechanical process. This is different. This is not based on passing a written test. It's based on how much we surrender to the spiritual master, who's the representative of Krishna, and listen effectively and respectively, or with respect. The discourses ask sincere and significant questions, all the while offering service humbly. Then Krishna, who is situated in the heart as Paramatma, the super soul, will reveal this knowledge to the devotee. The Paramatma is the source of all knowledge, as well as remembrance and also forgetfulness. So, in order to sin, in order to be sinful, we have to forget God. So, we can only do that if God helps us. He helps us to remember him. He also helps us to forget him so that we can sin. If we're always remembering God, we cannot sin comfortably. We'll be always feeling guilty. So he helps us to have total forgetfulness of him so that we go on our merry journey to hell sinning. But if we become submissive and respect Guru and Gurus and listen carefully, ask questions, offer service, remain humble and meek, then the Lord reveals this knowledge and gives us remembrance also. So persons who are strongly entrapped. So when he quotes this verse from the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Nate vidu swata kitim hi Vishnum, he means that people who are speculators, who are not surrendered to the Lord or his devotee or the spiritual master, they can never understand this knowledge. Persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life and who have therefore accepted as their leader or guru a similar blind man attached to external sense objects cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home back to Godhead and engage in the service of Lord Vishnu. As blind men guided by another blind man miss the right path and fall into a ditch, materially attached men led by another materially attached man are bound by the ropes of fruitive labor, which are made of very strong cords, and they continue again and again in materialistic life, suffering the threefold misery. So that's the verse, 7th canto, 5th chapter, 31st verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, spoken, if I'm not mistaken, by Prahlad Maharaj. Or it could be spoken by Krishna to Prahlad Maharaj. We are making progress, but we do not know what is the ultimate goal of progress. That we do not know. Nate vidhu. So similarly, Bhagavata also confirms, Nate vidhu swatagatim hi Vishnum durasaya. Durasaya means some impossible hope. They are being conducted under the guidance of this illusory energy with some hope which is impossible to be fulfilled. Durasaya. Nate vidu swatagatim hi Vishnum durasaya ye bahir artamanina. Why? They are thinking of that impossibility, impossible hope, because they have been captivated by this material energy. So what does this mean, an impossible hope? Well, it's like this. Let's say you're not satisfied with political leader. So the next election, so many candidates come up. And they all promise you, well, we're not going to do like him. I mean, he's a nonsense, you know. He doesn't deserve to be the president or whatever. We will do this. We'll give you this, and then we'll give you that, and we'll give you this also. Everyone will have chicken every Sunday, and they'll have a washing machine and a dryer, and they'll have the 2 cars in their yard, in their parking lot, and you'll all be happy. And we'll give you also a stipend, a minimum stipend, so you don't even have to work. And well, wait a minute. You believe that guy, and you voted for him. And then after 4 or 5 years, the next candidate comes up. See, this guy has never kept his promises, but I promise you that I'll give you 2 chickens every Sunday, and you'll have 2 houses and a boat and this and that, and you just vote for me. So this is called hope against hope. One cheater comes, lies to you, and then after 4 or 5 years, 10 years, you realize the whole thing was a lie. Then another cheater comes and lies bigger to you, and you believe it. And again, you have hope that, yes, by voting for him, everything will be all right. So this is called hope against hope. Just like someone has 4th stage of cancer, and they get an email saying a brand new medicine from China has appeared and can heal 4th degree cancer. Well, okay, that's what you want, right? The only problem is it costs $25,000 for 1 pill, and all you need is 2 pills to be healed. Well, you buy the first one, you feel a little better. You don't want to say I feel worse after spending $25,000. You take the second one, and you say, well, I feel better, you know, and then you die, right? So that's called hope against hope, you see. So people are being tricked like that all the time. They think by this material plan or that material plan, all these problems will go away. No material plan can solve the problems of material life. Because Krishna says, he describes this world as, he says that it is anityam asukam lokam. It is a temporary place full of misery. That's the way he describes life in the material world. It's in the 8th chapter, and he says that this world is anityam asukam lokam. He says, Mam upeti punarjanman dukalayam asasvatam. He says, after attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world which is full of miseries. Dukalayam asasvatam. Asasvatam means it's temporary, and dukalayam means it's a place of misery. This is the way he describes this world. And then again he says, Abrahma bhuvana loka punar avartina rijana mam upeti tukonteya punar janma vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So, again, he describes this world as full of miseries, and where there's only repeated birth and death. Okay. In another place he says, Anityam asukam lokam. All right. So, therefore, durasaya means an impossible hope. So people who are captivated by this material energy have hope against hope of finding some secure place where they can have sustained happiness and prosperity and be free of all miseries. That is a pipe dream. There's no place in the material world, even in the heavenly planets, where it's like that. So therefore Krishna says, Yo mama jamanadim cha vetiloka maheshwaram asamuda samartyesu sarvapapai pramuchyate. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he undiluted among men, is freed from all sins. So knowledge of Krishna is so powerful. It can free us of all sins. Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatpata tyakva deham punarjanma naitimam eti sarjuna. Krishna tells Arjuna in the 4th chapter that anyone who knows the transcendental nature of my activities and my appearance, my birth, does not, upon leaving the body, take birth again, but comes back to me. Well, that's how powerful knowledge of Krishna is. It will liberate us from the cycle of birth and death. So, sarva papai means, in modern civilization, there's no distinction between pious and impious. But according to Scripture, there are pious activities and impious activities. So just like today, there are women that say that I aborted 2 of my children. It was the best thing I ever did. Well, wait a minute. That's an extremely sinful thing. Or they say, oh, the best food is a hamburger with a lot of ketchup and mustard and maybe a little piece of lettuce and a thin slice of tomato. Right? But wait a minute. In order to eat that hamburger, you had to pay someone to kill a cow. That's the most sinful thing that people can do. And so they're aborting children, they're killing cows, they're gambling, they're drinking liquor, and they're calling all these things wonderful, great things. This is the real life, you see. So therefore, this modern civilization, there's no distinction between pious and impious. But according to Scripture, there are pious and impious activities. We're always engaged in some kind of activity, either pious or impious. If we're engaged in pious activities, then we become happy in the future. Not exactly happy, but a little bit of the upper stage than others. It is stated in the Scripture that by pious activities you can have your birth in a very good place, in a very good family. You can have highly developed life, and so forth. So here we are on the earthly planet. There are many, many other superior planets where people have far greater evolved senses, but still they cannot understand God. Still they cannot understand. Similarly, Rishaya means great philosophers, saintly persons, sages. They also cannot understand God. So Yomamajam Anadim Chaveti Loka Maheshwaram Samuda Martyesu Sarva Papai Pramuchyate. He who knows me as the unborn, as the beginningless, as the supreme Lord of all the worlds, he, undiluted among men, is freed from all sins. Now people today can say that, what is the use of understanding God? Let God remain in his place and let me remain in my place. What is the use? We cannot understand God. Now the argument may be, yes, you don't understand God. There's no necessity of bothering for understanding God. But Krishna says, no. If you don't take that botheration, then you'll never be happy. Neither you'll be liberated. So it is your interest to understand God. Not that God will be profited if you understand him. No, you will be profited if you understand him. Therefore he says, Yomamajam anadim cha veti loka maheshwaram. Anyone who can understand me as the origin of everything and loka maheshwaram, that is, the proprietor or the master of everything. Yomamajam anadim cha veti loka maheshwaram. Loka maheshwaram is the supreme proprietor or master of all planets or all everything. A samuda, without any doubt. A samuda samartyesu, even in this material world. Samartyesu sarvapapai pramuchyate. He becomes free from all sinful reactions simply by knowing, understanding that God is great. He is the proprietor of everything. He is the friend of everyone. And he's the origin of everything. These things, if one can understand, a samudha, not that because Bhagavad Gita is speaking like that, not that because a Swami is speaking like that, but you should understand yourself, a samudha, without any doubt. When you understand doubtlessly that God is the proprietor of everything, then you'll be liberated and freed from all, I mean to say, anxieties and miseries. Now, why does he say this? Well, if we understand that Krishna is the proprietor of everything, then we will not use anything selfishly. We'll only use things in the service of Krishna. Then you become free of karma. We only have karma when we use things selfishly and ignore the proprietorship of Krishna. If you ignore someone's proprietorship and you take things that belong to him and use them whimsically according to your whims, you're a thief and you're a criminal. So Krishna says this also. Previously, he says, let's see. Yeah, he says, well, the verse I quoted, and 4th chapter, verse number 9. Anyone who knows the transcendental nature, his appearance and activities, does not take birth in this world. Does not, upon approaching death, does not take birth again, but comes back to me. So Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the beginning of this creation, the first beginning, Brahma was created, and there are millions and millions of years before Brahma was created. So what do we know about Brahma and the demigods? So practically we do not know anything about God. We don't even know about the demigods. It is not possible. Our tiny brains cannot approach such extensive time frames and knowledge. So it's difficult to us to attain the platform where we can understand God. In Srimad Bhagavatam also it is said, Atakshi Krishna Nabhadi, Nabhavet Graham Indriya. Therefore, material senses cannot appreciate Krishna's holy name, form, qualities, and pastimes. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and taste the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. So the way to understand Krishna is by the tongue. The tongue has two functions. It tastes and it vibrates. So if we vibrate Hare Krishna and taste Mahaprasadam, even though it's impossible to understand Krishna by any other means, by this simple means of taking prasadam with faith that it is the mercy of the Lord and chanting his holy name with faith that the holy name is non-different than Krishna. Krishna is Maheshwara, Sarvaloka Maheshwara, the proprietor of everything. He is Bhoktaram Yagitapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwara, Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatvam Santin Richati. This 5th chapter, 29th verse, where it says, Bhoktaram Yagitapasam, Krishna is the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices. Sarvaloka Maheshwara, he is the supreme proprietor of everything, and Suridam Sarvabhutanam, the best friend of every living entity. Knowing this, Yajgyatva Santim Richati, one attains real peace. Okay, so we're talking about peace, happiness, and prosperity, right? So here, the formula of peace is given, and also the formula how to understand Krishna is given. It's by using the tongue to taste prasadam and chant Hare Krishna, and using the ears to hear about Krishna, bona fide knowledge. Indriya means these material senses. We gather knowledge by senses, but these material senses are very limited, so it's not possible to understand God or Krishna by speculating with our mind. Mind is the center of all senses, so senses help the mind gather knowledge. So it is not possible because our senses are all imperfect. By imperfect senses, we cannot reach to the perfect or to the unlimited. Therefore, we cannot know. Atakshi Krishna Nama Dina Bhavet Graham Indriya. It's not possible by manipulating your different senses and knowledge and mind that you can understand God. So this is an indictment of empiricism. Empiricism is a philosophy that knowledge is acquired through the senses, and it rejects any other source of knowledge. But here it's clearly stated that it's impossible to understand Krishna with imperfect senses. Okay, we'll stop right there and continue tomorrow, because there's another 3 pages to this. This is a very interesting lecture. When Prabhupada, in the beginning, when he lectured, he used to give long lectures full of transcendental information about Krishna. Not that his later lectures were any less intense, but those first lectures are particularly salutary for understanding Krishna. So, because nobody knew anything at that time, so he lectured longer and systematically to teach the devotees quickly about who Krishna is and what is disciplic succession, what is a bona fide spiritual master, how to attain knowledge of Krishna even though we have imperfect senses, and so forth. Hare Krishna. So in other words, all that is called epistemology, the science of how you know if something is true or false. So Prabhupada was expert in explaining that. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We'll continue again tomorrow night.